As the owner of the coffee shop, I want to watch what's going on throughout the day, making sure things are running smoothly. In the coffee shop, I can see people are getting their coffees and things look generally fine, but I can't just sit there and watch things all day long. I would like to eventually leave and maybe come back at the end of the day and be able to check in and see how the shop did when I was gone. For example, I might want to know how many coffees were sold today? How long was the average wait time for someone when ordering a coffee? Did we run out of inventory for anything today? Even better yet, I'd love to be able to be automatically alerted if the wait times become too long. That way, I can call in another employee or go pitch in myself. Every business, including this coffee shop, can use metrics to measure how well systems and processes are running. This idea of observing systems, collecting metrics, evaluating those metrics over time, and then using them to make decisions or take actions is what we call monitoring. It's important to set up monitoring in the cloud. With the elastic nature of AWS services, that dynamically scale up and down, you'll want to keep a close pulse on your AWS resources to ensure that your systems are running as expected. For example, if an EC2 instance is being overutilized, you can trigger a scaling event that automatically would launch another EC2 instance. Or if an application starts sending error responses at an unusually high rate, you can alert an employee to go take a look at what's going on. In the next few videos, we will cover a variety of tools that help you monitor your AWS environment. This monitoring will help you measure how your systems are performing, alert you when things aren't right, and even help you debug and troubleshoot issues as they come along.
Now we're making lots of coffee, serving customers, and everything seems to be going spiffy in our coffee shop. But as we run espresso machines more and more, use mugs, constantly open and close the fridge, we want to be able to make sure we're alerted to something which might have gone awry. Maybe an espresso machine needs to be cleaned or repaired. The point is, as a business owner, you need visibility into the state of your systems. Are things running well? Do you see a degraded customer experience? Are you frequently delivering the wrong drink to customers, or is everyone getting their orders as expected? You have all sorts of questions about the success of your operations, and the same idea applies to systems built on AWS. You need a way to monitor the health and operations of your solutions. Luckily, you don't need to build out your own monitoring platform. We have done this for you. Introducing Amazon CloudWatch. CloudWatch allows you to monitor your AWS infrastructure and the applications you run on AWS in real time. It works by tracking and monitoring metrics. Think of metrics as variables that are tied to your resources. For example, the amount of espressos made by an espresso machine, or the CPU utilization of an EC2 instance. Let's take a custom approach for our coffee shop. Say we have an espresso machine and it needs to be cleaned after it makes 100 espressos. CloudWatch allows us to create a custom metric called espresso count. And once it hits 100, we want to alert staff to clean the machine. Simple, right? Well, with CloudWatch, you can accomplish this by creating what is called a CloudWatch alarm. You set a threshold for a metric, and when that threshold is reached, CloudWatch can generate an alert and trigger an action. This means we can alert on the custom metric, in this case hitting 100, and then perform an action. Even better, CloudWatch alarms are integrated with SNS, so we can then send an SMS to the manager to say, clean the machine. You can create all sorts of custom alarms for metrics from all different types of AWS resources. Now, what if we want to aggregate all those metrics in a single pane of glass? Well, we can use CloudWatch's dashboard feature. Think of a dashboard as a screen which lists out metrics in near real time. In our case, we can create a CloudWatch dashboard which will show us all our espresso machines and their espresso counts so we can proactively monitor them. These dashboards will auto-refresh when they are open so we can see an up-to-date view of our resources. Finally, what are the benefits of using a service such as CloudWatch? Well, the first one is that you can have access to all your metrics from a central location. This enables you to collect metrics and logs from all your AWS resources, applications, and services that run on AWS and on-premises servers, helping you break down silos so that you can easily gain system-wide visibility. You can also get visibility across your applications, infrastructure, and services, which means you gain insights across your distributed stack so you can correlate and visualize metrics and logs to quickly pinpoint and resolve issues. This in turn means you can reduce mean time to resolution, or MTTR, and improve total cost of ownership, or TCO. So in our coffee shop, if the MTTR of cleaning our espresso machines is shorter, then we can save on TCO with them. This means freeing up important resources like developers to focus on adding business value. Lastly, you can drive insights to optimize applications and operational resources by, for example, aggregating usage across an entire fleet of EC2 instances to derive operational and utilization insights. And now our staff can focus on serving coffee versus constantly cleaning machines before they are due to be cleaned. And there you have it, folks. You're up to speed on what CloudWatch entails. Now, if you excuse me, I have a date with an espresso machine to refill my coffee.
The cash register, one of the world's first self-auditing devices. The principle is simple: trust but verify. You have your entire store being run by a clerk that you trust, but you want to make sure that the cash in the drawer matches the actual sales. So every transaction then is recorded and tabulated. So at the end of the day, you know exactly what should be there. Being able to audit transactions in IT is a critical element in most compliance structures. But in a physical data center, there are so many places where a human can, even by accident, make changes without any record of that change getting recorded. At AWS, that problem goes away because everything is programmatic. Introducing AWS CloudTrail, the comprehensive API auditing tool. The engine is simple. Every request made to AWS, doesn't matter if it's to launch an EC2 instance or add a row to a DynamoDB table or change a user's permissions, every request gets logged in the CloudTrail engine. The engine records exactly who made the request, which operator, when did they send the API call, where were they, or what was their IP address, and what was the response. Did something change? And what is the new state? Was the request denied? From an auditing perspective, well, this is fabulous. So imagine that you're dealing with an auditor who is checking to make sure that nobody from the outside can access your database. That's a good thing. Well, okay, you built a security group that locks out external traffic. But remember that a root level administrator still has permissions to change those settings, right? Well, so how do you prove to the auditor that the security group settings never changed? The answer is CloudTrail. And then CloudTrail can save those logs indefinitely in secure S3 buckets. In addition, with tamper-proof methods like Vault Lock, you then can show absolute provenance of all of these critical security audit logs.
When running a business, you might need some advisors who can come in from the outside and say, hey, this process should be streamlined. Or, hey, I have some good tips on how to save money on your overhead. Or even, hey, I noticed I was able to waltz right in, go behind your cash register, and open the drawer without anyone noticing. Not good. The point I'm trying to make is sometimes it's nice to have someone who knows the industry best practices and knows what to look for come in and tell you what you need to change in order to run more efficiently, be more secure, or to save some money. AWS has an automated advisor called AWS Trusted Advisor. This is a service that you can use in your AWS account that will evaluate your resources against 5 pillars. The pillars are cost optimization, performance, security, fault tolerance, and service limits. Trusted Advisor in real time runs through a series of checks for each pillar in your account based on AWS best practices. And it compiles categorized items for you to look into, and you can view them directly in the AWS console. Some checks are free and are included in your AWS account, and others are available depending on the level of your support plan. Some examples of checks are, if you don't have multi-factor authentication turned on for your root user, it's going to let you know. If you have underutilized EC2 instances that might be able to be turned off in order to save money, or if you have EBS volumes that haven't been backed up in a reasonable amount of time, it will let you know that too. To get a better idea, let's look at AWS Trusted Advisor in my own account. I'm already logged into the console, and I'm going to type in Trusted Advisor into the search. This brings me to the Trusted Advisor dashboard, and I'm going to click on the cost optimization pillar first to view what it has found. You can see right away there are 3 levels of items it is showing me. There is the red circle, which means action recommended, the orange triangle, which means investigation recommended, and the green square, which means that there were no problems detected. Lucky for me, I don't have any red items for cost optimization, but I do have some orange items. Under cost optimization checks, I can read more about each check that Trusted Advisor ran. In this account, I do have some RDS instances that are idle, as well as some underutilized EC2 instances and EBS volumes. I could decide to scale these instances down vertically to save on cost. Or if they aren't being used at all, I could decide to delete those instances and those EBS volumes altogether. It would require some investigation for me to determine what to do here. Now, let's click on the performance pillar. On this one, I don't have any warnings, but we can still read what checks Trusted Advisor performed. Like this one, for example, which checks for EBS volumes whose performance might have been affected by the throughput capability of the EC2 instance that it's attached to. Next, let's select the security pillar. In this demo account, you can see there are 4 alerts that are at the action recommended level. Trusted Advisor is trying to alert me, telling me I have weak password policies for IAM users, multi factor authentication is not turned on for the root user, and there are security groups allowing public access to EC2 instances. All of these items are putting the resources in this account at risk and should be dealt with as soon as possible. Now let's move on to fault tolerance. For this, there are a few things that are found to be insufficient. First, Trusted Advisor is telling me that there are EBS volumes without snapshots in this account. Remember, a snapshot is a backup. So without backups, if I had an EBS volume fail, I would lose that data. Another alert we have here is that my EC2 AZ balance is at the action recommended level. This means that my EC2 instances are not properly launched across AZs. So if one AZ has trouble, my application might incur an outage. Deploying across AZs would be the answer to this one. Finally, let's check out service limits. This pillar will tell you when you are approaching or hitting AWS service limits. A lot of service limits are soft limits, meaning they are restrictions that can be lifted to some degree. It's good to know when you are approaching one of those limits and when it's time to turn in a support ticket with AWS to get them changed. In this account, I can see that I have 5 VPCs, which is the regional limit. So I've hit that specific service limit. Trusted Advisor can help point you in the right direction when it comes to the 5 pillars. You can set up email alerts that go out to billing, operations, and security contacts as checks get run in your account. Make sure you have Trusted Advisor turned on so that you too can start taking action to optimize your AWS account.
Understanding what is happening in your environment is key to maintaining efficient, secure, and compliant applications. We discussed how CloudWatch can provide near real-time understanding of how your system is behaving, including being alerted to conditions that require your attention. CloudWatch also gives you the ability to look at those metrics over time as you tune your system for maximum performance. We discussed how CloudTrail can help you know exactly who did what, when, and from where. It answers all of your AWS auditing questions, well, except why they did it. And finally, we looked at Trusted Advisor that compiles a quick dashboard of over 40 common concerns around cost, performance, security, and resilience in an actionable dashboard. There are, of course, many additional monitoring and analytical tools available for your use, but this will help you get a good feeling for some of the variety AWS offers your business. Well, now that Morgan is the owner of the coffee shop, she probably has a lot of logistics to worry about, as well as all the costs that come with this added responsibility. Costs like the building lease, the tables, the cost of the employees, of course. What about taxes? What about power and heating and air conditioning? And what about the groundskeepers who keep the outside looking so nice? And a much more important question is, how much is it going to cost next month to keep the store open? There's really a lot of moving parts. We certainly could get a good ballpark of how much it costs per month and just estimate what next month might be, knowing that it's about to start the busy season. In order to get the exact amount, we need to know how much each item costs and how many of them we're planning to use next month. Put them in a table, and that'll calculate the prediction. Done. Now, we might also be asking questions about what it might cost to move to an entirely different city, and what would be the cost differential there. All of these questions are exactly the kinds of questions that we're going to answer in this next section as we talk about pricing and support. Now, spoiler alert, AWS provides a lot of free tools to help you plan and analyze your budgets for your AWS environments. Let's dive on in.
So you've created a brand spanking new AWS account and want to get started, but you're worried about exhausting your credit limit. Well, don't worry. If you're looking to try out some AWS services, you might be able to try them out under our free tier. Depending on the product you're looking at, the free tier offers 3 different ways to try out a service. Number 1, always free. That means a service is available to all AWS customers and the free tier does not expire. Number 2, 12 months free. That means you have 12 months to try out a service following your initial sign-up date to AWS. So the date you created your AWS account. And number 3, trials. Some services offer a short-term free trial and then they expire after that period ends. Simple enough, right? Let's illustrate with a few examples. Let's take AWS Lambda, our serverless compute option. As of March 2020, it allows for 1 million free invocations per month. That means if you stay under 1 million invocations, it's always free. This free tier never expires. Another example is S3, our object store service. It's free for 12 months for up to 5 gigs of storage. Thereafter, you'll incur a cost. Great for trying out a static website on S3, I might say. And the last example is Lightsail, where you can deploy ready-made application stacks. We offer a 1-month trial of up to 750 hours of usage. That's a pretty decent amount to deploy and test a WordPress blog. I mean, who knows? Maybe you want to show people your smoothie recipes. But before I digress, some other services that qualify under the free tier are SageMaker, Comprehend Medical, DynamoDB, SNS, Cognito, and so much more. If you want to see the full list of 60 or so services, please check out our resources section. Happy exploring of the free tier! Hey there, AWS aficionados. Are you like me and curious about billing information of your AWS account? Well, let's walk through a demo so you know where to go. As you can see, I'm already logged in, and now we're going to search for billing and click the option that shows up. And boom, With that, you already have some useful information. You can see your month-to-date spend on the right-hand side with the top services being used. Below on the left is the last month, current and forecasted amounts. Below that is the top free tier services by usage. You even get the percentages of your month-to-date usage. Nifty, right? If we scroll up, you can see you have access to other billing tools such as Cost Explorer, budgets, along with a few others. You also get access to your bill itself. So let's click Bills. Now you can see we have the services that we are paying for, and if we expand them, we get to see the costs broken down by region. And for global services, we see them broken down as such. For example, if I click Route 53, you can see it's a global service and is broken down that way. And there you have it, a simple way to check out what you're spending on each service in AWS. Thanks for joining us.
When you own multiple coffee shops around the city, like we talked about before, each one will have its own expenditures and its own profits. At the end of the day, for these coffee shops, they're all owned by the same entity. Because of that, the money is flowing to and from one main account. If there is a coffee machine repair person on call to help fix the coffee machines when they break, that repair person will bill the organization, not the individual coffee shop. Okay, let's take that idea and apply it to AWS. A singular company will more than likely have multiple AWS accounts. And as you already learned, you can manage multiple accounts in AWS by using AWS organizations. One of the lovely features of AWS organizations is called consolidated billing. At the end of every month, instead of having to pay an AWS bill for every single account, you can roll those bills up into one bill owned by the owner of the organization. This makes it easier to keep track of your bills. You don't get 100 bills if you have 100 AWS accounts. Just like our coffee shop example, if my repair person visited 11 of my coffee shops repairing coffee makers, they would just make one bill for the billing cycle, so it's easier for the company to manage. Same idea with the consolidated billing feature for AWS organizations. You can still view your AWS bill in an itemized fashion, so you know which account spent what, but it all goes into one central location for ease of viewing. There are other benefits of using this feature too. One of them is that the usage for AWS resources is rolled up to the organization level. AWS does offer bulk pricing. Each individual account may only have a small amount of usage, but you can get the bulk discount pricing because of the aggregate across all accounts in the organization. In addition, if you have a savings plan in place, or if you are using reserved instances for EC2, it can be shared across AWS accounts in the organization. The best part about this is that the feature is free and easy to use. So it simplifies the billing process, lets you share savings across accounts, and doesn't cost you any extra money. Nice.
As you're ramping up your AWS deployments, you probably want to make sure you're not spending an unbudgeted amount. As with most companies, you want to track costs and make sure you keep within your limits. Introducing AWS budgets. Think of a budget for your personal expenses, and you'll be most familiar with AWS budgets. It allows you to set custom budgets for a variety of scenarios like cost and usage. You will then receive an alert when your costs or usage exceed or are forecasted to exceed your budgeted amount. Say my budget was $1,000 and I want to be notified when I reach 80% of that amount. Well, with budgets, you can do just that. That means you can be proactively notified if you're going to exceed your budgeted amount for resources. So let me show you what I'm talking about here with the demo. To get started, you navigate to the billing section of your AWS console. Click Budgets, then click Create Budget. Choose a type for your budget. I'll pick Cost. Give your budget a name. Enter an amount, let's say $1,000 as I mentioned earlier, and then click Configure Alerts. Next, we set an alert threshold. Let's take that 80%, which means we'll get an alert if we've reached 80% of our budgeted amount. Now let's add an email address. Gotta make sure to blur this out, folks. I get enough spam as it is. Now we click Confirm Budget and Create. And voila, we have our first budget. How streamlined was that? I think it's safe to say we budgeted our time wisely in that demo.
Yeah. Okay. Cost Explorer.
As we have already discussed, AWS has a variable cost model, and you only pay for what you use. You don't have one fixed billed amount at the end of every month. Instead, it fluctuates with the resources you use and how you use them. Because of this cost model, it's really important that you can drill down into your bill and see just how you are spending money. AWS has a service called the AWS Cost Explorer, and it's a console-based service that allows you to visually see and analyze how you are spending money with AWS. It will show you which services you are spending the most money on, and it gives you 12 months of historical data, so you can track your spending over time. That way, if you see a bump in spending on, say, EC2 from October to December, you can then use that data to go on and figure out why exactly that happened. Let's take a look at AWS Cost Explorer in my own AWS account. You can see I am logged into the console, and I'm going to type into the search Cost Explorer. From here, I am brought to the Cost Management dashboard, and I will click on Cost Explorer. You can see this is showing me the last 6 months of cost associated with my account, and it's currently grouped by service. I can change the time frame it's showing me to 8 months and change the data to be grouped by different attributes, and I'll go ahead and select region. I can group by other attributes as well. One important grouping to note is to group by tag. Many resources in AWS are taggable. Tags are essentially user-defined key value pairs. So you can tag an EC2 instance with a specific project name or a database with the same project name. And then you can come into the AWS Cost Explorer, filter by tag, and see all of the expenses associated with that tag. Cost Explorer also allows you to create custom reports. So now what I'm going to do is create a report on the daily costs for the month of January of this year. I'm going to group by service. You can see that the cost of the services is generally the same every day, except that I used more EC2 on some days than others. I can then save this report and come back to it when it is needed. So, as you can see, Cost Explorer gives you some powerful defaults for reports, but you can build your own custom ones as well. This will help you identify cost drivers and take action when necessary to curb spending. Cost optimization is a priority you should be paying close attention to, and you can use the Cost Explorer to help get you going in the right direction. One of the great things about AWS is no matter how big or small your business is, you're never alone. From small startups to large enterprises, private sector and public, all businesses have support options available that are designed to fit your specific needs. To begin with, every customer automatically gets AWS basic support, no cost at all. Any customer can access support functions like 24/7 access to customer support, documentation, white papers, support forums, AWS Trusted Advisor, and the AWS Personal Health Dashboard. It's a personalized view of the health of AWS services and any alerts when your resources might be impacted. These functions are free for everyone, but as you begin to move critical workloads into AWS, we offer higher levels of support to match your levels of need. The next support plan is our AWS Developer Support, which includes everything in the basic support level. Plus, you can now email customer support directly with a 24-hour response time on any questions you have. and responses of less than 12 hours in case your systems are impaired. This is a great plan for businesses that are experimenting with AWS or setting up tests or proofs of concept. Now, as you begin to take production workloads live, we find customers are more successful advancing to AWS Business Support. Everything in the previous plans is included, plus Trusted Advisor now opens up the entire suite of checks for your account. You are given direct phone access to our support team. They have a 4-hour response time if your production system is impaired and a 1-hour response time for when your production system is down. Additionally, as a part of the business support plan, we provide access to infrastructure event management. For an extra fee, we can help you plan for massive events like brand new launches or global advertising blitzes. Next, for companies migrating production and business critical workloads to AWS, we recommend AWS Enterprise Support on ramp. It has everything in the previous plans, plus a 30-minute response time for business critical workloads and access to a pool of technical account managers or TAMs. They provide proactive guidance and coordinate access to programs and AWS experts as needed. Finally, for companies running mission critical workloads, we recommend the AWS Enterprise Support. It has everything in the previous plans, plus a 15-minute response time for business and mission critical workloads and a designated TAM. Your TAM will proactively monitor your environment and assist with optimization. AWS Enterprise Support also includes access to proactive reviews, workshops, and deep dives. Let's talk a bit more specifically about the job of a TAM. TAMs are part of the concierge support team that comes with both enterprise support options. They provide infrastructure event management, well architected reviews, and operations reviews. In Enterprise On Ramp, your engagement with TAMs is rate limited, whereas rate limits don't apply in AWS Enterprise Support. What's a well architected review, you ask? Well, keeping it simple, TAMs work with customers to review architectures using the well architected framework. Architectures are checked against the 6 pillars of the well architected framework: operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization, and sustainability. As you can see, the job of a TAM is much more than just handling trouble tickets. AWS support looks at the customer holistically, not just if they have problems, but how can we help them be successful? And that's the mission of AWS support. To learn more about AWS support, including pricing structures for the plans, go to aws.amazon.com/premium support.
Another huge way that AWS supports your enterprise is through the AWS Marketplace. Another huge way that AWS supports your enterprise is through the AWS Marketplace. The AWS Marketplace is a curated digital catalog that streamlines your steps to find, deploy, and manage third-party software running in your AWS architecture, all while providing a range of payment options. And this allows you to accelerate innovation while rapidly and securely deploying a wide range of solutions, while also reducing your total cost of ownership. To help us understand this more, I want to talk about what the AWS Marketplace brings to the table and how it can help you improve your speed and agility with AWS. The first key way that the AWS Marketplace helps customers is that instead of needing to build, install, and maintain the foundational infrastructure needed to run these third-party applications, in the marketplace, customers have options like one-click deployment that allows them to quickly procure and use products from thousands of software sellers right when you need them. Now, as you may know, some third-party vendors historically have annual contracts for on-premises data centers. You might be wondering, is it the same within AWS? Well, every vendor can choose what options are available, but almost every vendor in the marketplace will allow you to use any annual licenses you already own and credit them for AWS deployment. But more importantly, as you move forward, most vendors in the marketplace also offer on-demand, pay-as-you-go options. These flexible pricing plans give you more options to pay for the software the way you actually use it, without wasted, unused licenses weighing down your balance sheets. Many vendors even offer free trials or quick start plans to help you experiment and learn about their offerings, because they know, just like AWS itself, the best way to see if something works for you is to just run it. Even for large enterprises that are used to negotiating custom rates and discount with vendors, well, the AWS Marketplace can help. The Marketplace offers a number of enterprise-focused features, such as custom terms and pricing, where you can manage custom licensing agreements, a private marketplace, where you can create a custom catalog of pre-approved software solutions that meet your specific legal or security standards, integration into your procurement systems, and a range of cost management tools, just to name a few benefits. To learn more about the AWS Marketplace, go to aws.amazon.com/marketplace.
Well, you've heard a lot about pricing and support, and it's probably a lot more than you initially thought. You learned about the pay-as-you-go nature of using AWS cloud resources. We discussed the difference between on-premises and cloud costs, and we even showed you how you can get your feet wet with the free tier offered with most AWS services. We talked about how AWS organizations can be used and how it can help you with consolidated billing of multiple AWS accounts. We covered AWS budgets, Cost Explorer. We even explored AWS console billing so you could get familiar with it, and then switched gears to talk about the different support models offered on AWS. Very handy if you're looking for assistance on your cloud journey. Speaking of assistance, we introduced you to the expansive AWS partner ecosystem so you can find partners to help you with your workloads. And lastly, we touched upon AWS Marketplace if you're looking for click and go services. So it looks like we've established how to get going on the AWS cloud, but what if you have existing deployments in on-premises environments or have started a cloud journey without AWS? Well, we'd love to help you move across, especially since you can take advantage of some real savings by moving. This brings us to migration and innovation. We'll show you all the options from migration tools, the AWS Cloud Adoption Framework, and even the Snow family, which are physical devices to migrate data in and out of AWS. So before we adjourn, stay glued to your seats for information on how to move from on-premises environments or the cloud to AWS. We'll even cover the 6 R's of migration.
Migrating to the cloud is a process. You don't just snap your fingers and have everything magically hosted in AWS. It takes a lot of effort to get applications migrated to AWS, and having a successful cloud migration is something that requires expertise. Luckily, many people have had successful cloud migrations in the past, and you're not the first one to have solutions in AWS. Because of this, a lot of the knowledge around how to go about hosting on AWS has been captured and shared. That being said, what position you hold in your organization will impact the things that you need to know or help with for your migration. If you are a developer, your role and viewpoint will be much different than a cloud architect, business analyst, or financial analyst. Different types of people bring different perspectives to the table for a migration, and you want to harness those different perspectives and make sure everyone is on the same page. You also want to ensure that you have the right talent to help support your migration. So HR will need to hire at the correct rate to enable your migration. This can be a lot to keep track of, and someone new to the cloud might not think of all the different people who need to be involved. The AWS Professional Services team has created something called the AWS Cloud Adoption Framework that can help you manage this process through guidance. Adoption Framework. That can help you manage this process through guidance. The Cloud Adoption Framework exists to provide advice to your company to enable a quick and smooth migration to AWS. The framework organizes guidance into 6 areas, focused on the different types of people that you'll need to involve for your migration, just like the different perspectives that we talked about earlier. Each perspective covers distinct responsibilities covered by different groups. The different perspectives are business, people, and governance perspectives, which focus on the business capabilities. And then you have the platform, security, and operations perspectives, which focus on the technical capabilities. Someone who is a business or finance analyst would fall under the business perspective. HR would fall under the people perspective, and a cloud architect would fall under the platform perspective. Each perspective is used to uncover gaps in your skills and processes, which are then recorded as inputs. These inputs are then used as the basis for creating what is called an AWS Cloud Adoption Framework action plan that you then use to guide your organization's change management as you journey to the cloud. that you then use to guide your organization's change management as you journey to the cloud. Having an action plan that makes sense for your organization can help keep you on track. Migrating to the cloud can be complicated, but again, you're not alone in this. There are tons of resources to help you get started, and the Cloud Adoption Framework is a great place to look.
So it is finally time to migrate from your on-premises deployment onto AWS. Like Morgan said in the prior video, it would be great to just snap your fingers and instantly have all the elements from your existing on-prem data center magically appear on AWS, optimized and efficient. But it doesn't work that way. Every application, or application groups if they're tightly coupled, will have 6 possible options when it comes to your enterprise migration. We call these the 6 R's. Once you've gone through the discovery phase and know exactly what you have in your existing environment, you decide which option among the 6 R's is the best fit based on time, cost, priority, criticality. The first option is rehosting. This is otherwise known as lift and shift. And this is an easy thing for businesses to do because you're not making any changes, at least not at first. Just pick up the applications and move them pretty much as is onto AWS. You may not get all the possible benefits, but some companies found that even without any optimization, they could save up to 30% of their total costs just by rehosting. Also, we find it's easier to optimize applications later once they already live in the cloud because your organization has better skills to do so. The hard part, the migration, is already complete. The second option is called replatforming, or lift, tinker, and shift. It's still basically a lift and shift, but instead of a pure one-to-one, you might make a few cloud optimizations, but you're not touching any core code in the process. No new dev efforts are involved here. For example, you could take your existing MySQL database and re-platform it onto RDS MySQL without any code changes at all, or even consider upgrading to Amazon Aurora. This gives significant benefit to your DBA team as well as improved performance without any code changes. Now, before we add more migration options, 2 of the 6 R's don't actually end up on AWS. Number 3, retire. Some parts of your enterprise IT portfolio are just no longer needed. We found as much as 10 to 20% of companies' application portfolios include applications that are no longer being used or already have replacements live and functional. Using the AWS migration plan as the opportunity to actually end of life these applications can save significant cost and effort for your team. Sometimes you just have to turn off the lights. Number 4, retain. Some applications are about to be deprecated, but maybe not just yet. They still need to run, but don't turn them off for another 3 months or 8 months. Or these apps could be migrated to AWS, but why? You should only migrate what makes sense for your business. And then as time goes on, these applications can be deprecated where they live and ultimately retired. Okay, let's get back to what is going to move to AWS. Number 5, repurchase. This is common for companies looking to abandon legacy software vendors and get a fresh start as part of migration. For example, ending a contract with an old CRM vendor and moving to a brand new one, or perhaps finally ending your licensing with an out-of-date database vendor in favor of cloud-native database offerings. Now, this sounds great, but remember, you'll now be dealing with a new software package. Some are easy to implement, some take time. The total upfront expense of this step, therefore, goes up, but the potential benefits could be substantial. Number 6, refactoring. Now, number 6, refactoring. Now you're writing new code. This is driven by a strong business need to add features or performance that might not be possible on-prem, but now are within your reach. Dramatic changes to your architecture can be very beneficial to your enterprise, but this will come at the highest initial cost in terms of planning and human effort. 6 paths to move to AWS. Once you have the inventory of all your pieces, choosing the right AWS and human, but dramatic change not by a strong, now you're writing new code. Refactoring. Now you're writing new code. This is driven by a strong business need to add features or performance that might not be possible on-prem, but now are within your reach. Dramatic change to your architecture can be very beneficial to your enterprise, but this will come at the highest initial cost in terms of planning and human effort. 6 paths to move to AWS. Once you have the inventory of all your pieces, choosing the right one for each part is critical to the success of your migration.
Some of our customers need to get data to AWS, and most of them would like to do it in an efficient and timely manner. The usual route is to simply copy the required data over the internet, or better yet, if they have a direct connect line. However, with the limitations of bandwidth, in general, this can take days, weeks, or even months. For example, a dedicated 1 gigabit per second network connection theoretically moves 1 petabyte of data in about 100 days, and in the real world, likely longer and at a higher cost. With this customer feedback, and as a way to address this gap, we therefore introduced the AWS Snow family of devices. The first device, which is also our newest offering, is called AWS Snow Cone, and it's a device that holds up to 8 terabytes of data and contains edge computing. Edge computing options are Amazon EC2 instances and AWS IoT Greengrass. To obtain one, you place an order via the AWS Management Console. We ship it to you, you plug it in, and copy your data, and finally ship it back to us. We'll then copy the data to your AWS account, usually an Amazon S3 bucket that you own, and boom, Bob's your uncle, and your data is available to use. Customers usually use these devices to ship terabytes of information, such as analytics data, video libraries, image collections, backups, and even tape replacement. Terabytes you own to us, Ross. Edge computing options are Amazon's up to 8 terabytes is called AWS Snow. Cone, and it's a device that holds up to 8 terabytes of data and contains edge computing. Edge computing options are Amazon EC2 instances and AWS IoT Greengrass. To obtain one, you place an order. Edge computing device that holds up to 8 terabytes of data and contains edge computing. Edge computing options are Amazon EC2 instances and AWS IoT Greengrass. To obtain one, you place an order via the AWS Management Console. We ship it to you, you plug it in, and copy your data, and finally ship it back to us. We'll then copy the data to your AWS account, usually an Amazon S3 bucket that you own, and boom, Bob's your uncle, and your data is available to use. Customers usually use these devices to ship terabytes of information, such as analytics data, video libraries, image collections, backups, and even tape replacement data. I mean, who doesn't have a terabyte collection of cat images that they want to back up to the AWS cloud? But what if 8 terabytes is not enough? Well, good news. We have a product for that requirement called Snowball Edge. It comes in 2 versions, a Snowball Edge Compute Optimized option and a Snowball Edge Storage Optimized option. Even better is that they fit into existing server racks and can be clustered for greater computing needs. Once you plug them into your infrastructure, you can even run AWS Lambda functions, Amazon EC2 compatible AMIs, or even AWS IoT Greengrass to perform simple processing of data right then and there. Customers usually ship these to remote locations where it's trickier to have a lot of computing power lying around. The use cases include capturing of streams from IoT devices, image compression, video transcoding, and even industrial signaling. The last device that's up for grabs is also the largest in our fleet, the AWS Snowmobile. And as the name suggests, it's housed in a 45-foot rugged shipping container and pulled along by a freaking truck. I mean, this thing is huge. It houses 100 petabytes and is ideal for the largest migrations and even data center shutdowns. We drive the truck to your designated location, plug it in, and it then appears as a network attached storage device with, like I said, capacity of up to 100 petabytes. It is tamper resistant, waterproof, temperature controlled. It even has fire suppression and GPS tracking. I mean, can you believe that it also has 24/7 video surveillance with a dedicated security team and escort security vehicle during transit? That's some serious business. But it should be noted that all Snow family devices are designed to be secure and tamper resistant while on site or in transit. This means the hardware and software is cryptographically signed, and all data stored is automatically encrypted using 256-bit encryption keys, owned and managed by you, the customer. You can even use AWS Key Management Service to generate and manage keys. As always, it's been a pleasure taking you through yet another AWS service. Hope you've had fun learning about the AWS Snow family.
There's so much more that can be done on AWS that we have time to talk about here. For example, when it comes to migrating onto AWS, we didn't even cover running VMware on AWS. The same VMware-based infrastructure that you use on-prem can, in many cases, just be lifted up and dropped onto AWS via VMware Cloud on AWS. And this is just one of many concepts that make AWS a place where builders go to create and innovate at the pace of their ideas. When it comes to machine learning and artificial intelligence, AWS has the broadest and deepest set of machine learning and AI services for your business. You can choose from pre-trained AI services for computer vision, language recommendations, and forecasting. Amazon SageMaker can quickly build, train, and deploy machine learning models at scale, or build custom models with support for all the popular open source frameworks. Our capabilities are built on the most comprehensive cloud platform, optimized for machine learning with high performance compute, and no compromises on security and analytics. Tools like Amazon SageMaker and Amazon Augmented AI, or Amazon A2I, provide a machine learning platform that any business can build upon without needing PhD level expertise in-house. Or perhaps